Hello, I'm Mr. and tonight we're looking at the first round of Polish Nationals, the game being played between Oko and Dagguh, piloting respectively Esa Atontov and Weyland built to last. As we can see, Dagguh is starting the game off with a mulligan, while Esa is keeping her opening hand, which usually could favor the runner already, but we'll see how it turns out quite soon enough. Esa being the fairly new Anarch, playing around with the sabotage mechanic, requiring Corp to trash cards from either headquarters or R&D, and build last usually being built as a glacier archetype, playing multiple pieces of advanceable ice, trying to make their servers as unapproachable and unassailable as it is possible. And so we can start the game, and we immediately see that the corporation hand after mulligan is quite amazing. The Rashida and two pieces of ice are going to do a lot to propel them forward by a lot. We also can see a public trail in our opening hand, which probably means that this is not our usual build to last build, maybe trying to flatline the runner instead of building tall servers. We also have seen Charlotte Cachador in the opening hand, the engine of choice for the most build to last decks, netting us 4 credits and a card each turn. 5 credits and a card each turn, if I'm not mistaken, which was certainly a boost to the ID and an archetype. You can see that Dagguh is trying his best to help us in the commentary booth, flashing his hand from time to time towards the camera or towards the person sitting next to him. On the other side, we have started with Dr. Nukang drawing 3 cards with its ability before trying to contest the Rashida and the remote server with Raindrops Cut Zone, the card that boosted Anarch's economy and the bunker package by quite a bit, the card replacing itself if any subroutines fire and netting us 2 credits is a great way to contest an early game and propel ourselves forward. Strike Fund being discarded with the hand size, not the best, but, well, if we don't have a worse card in hand, it might as well do that. And the card that Oko played as the last one was a Fermenter, the Polish Fermenter, with Pickles getting ready for the next season. Beautifully drawn on it. We have seen the flash of Oko hand, and I believe a Suda Pankar, so while this agenda, this Octane renovation might be safe, the next ones might be a little more in danger of being contested. But we still will double-ice the server. We wouldn't want to lose our first points to an odd lamb or a behemoth coming down on the next turn, immediately breaking that border control and, well, stealing the first points of the game. On the Oko side, we'll start with drawing 3 cards of Nuka, the choices within their hand, not enough for them apparently, and, well, maybe what deserves playing down the Marrow as a first card, though I don't know if I would prefer to play the Bankar as a first card, unless there are 2 in hands. 2 in their hand, I would prefer not losing that to our self-inflicted core damage, and I believe there was a small problem with that install in that it wasn't paid for. It shouldn't affect the game if I remember correctly, but it is something to keep in mind for the future. At the same time, the first trigger of SM of the game is going to fire, prompting Dagguh to drop 2 cards from the top of his deck into the archives. Let's see what else we have in mind for that turn. I certainly would like to see that bunker coming down, But first we'll see Divide and Conquer, hit the archives, trying to see if any of those two cards were agendas, as well as accessing cards from the top of the deck and Dagguh's hand. And if I remember correctly, there was one agenda, or maybe Charlotte, that could be ripped out of the hand, but we can see that Project Atlas is the first victim of our runner this game. First 2 points coming over to SS side as soon as turn 2. Let's see. And here we see the public trail from the start. Now the runner is aware that there might be plans for their quick demise if they were to not pay attention to what corporation is doing or presenting. And as a last click, we are going to play a bunker, and this is one of the consequences of not paying for Marrow. Were we to pay for it, we wouldn't have money right now for it, but that will hardly affect the game, I believe. We will see in the future. On the other side, we can see corporations scoring out their Octam renovation, earning the exuberant amounts of money that the card produces, and triggering Marrow on the way out, sabotaging one card off the top of an R&D. It seems that Build to Last is quite content with keeping what they've got in their hand, and that's a bunch of useful cards for them. The Charlotte, for example, being set up as an engine, probably starting to fire as soon as the next turn comes down. On the other side, we see Alco starting their turn with firing off the Fermenter and immediately playing a Chastushka. The bunker naming the HQ as its chosen server, making that offshore not as formidable of a piece of ice as it could be. Even hitting Steelskin Scarring, immediately refueling the runner's hand, the runner being at least card neutral when it comes to the cards in hand. The other hit is a second Fermenter, which, while annoying, because Fermenter is an amazing piece of economy for the runner decks, it is a better card to lose than an impactful event or a stray icebreaker that could have been drawn with the Steelskin Scarring. We sabotage 4 cards off the top of the deck, or 1 card from hand and 3 from the deck. I couldn't see quite right, and we immediately check that with a Dirty Laundry. We can see a couple of engines and a couple of ice pieces going down, but no more agendas, which is important for our corporation if we want to keep ourselves safe from losing as quick as turn 4 or 5 were it to be a 3-pointer going down that I believe we just drew. It's either End of the Line or a CityWorks project. I cannot quite see good enough that particular card. Asa is technically in a danger zone, being only on 7 credits. Public Trail could be fair and be used to give runner tag, but End of the Line would deal only 4 damage. Regretfully, for corporation not flatlining our runner right now. We start with a Spin Doctor, so no plans to kill the runner, more plans to simply make sure our agendas are being kept safe, and we ice R&D just in case, while SI is not known for impactful R&D runs. There is an odd threat of finality, and we just simply don't want to give runners singles of R&D if we can afford to stop them from doing that. On the other side, we see another Netrunner coming down and drawing our runner 3 cards, mostly giving more options, as some of the cards were already quite reasonable in the hand. and we will see what's the plan for the rest of the turn. We are contesting Spin Doctor. That's the staple of SS gameplay. We don't want to sabotage more cards while there is a Spin Doctor in play. We could give the opportunity to Corporation to save more agendas than each Spin Doctor should be allowed to save. We shuffle End of the Line and a Face Down, which we can assume was an agenda. And let's see what they plan to do with the last click. The last click comes down with the last fermenter, making sure that SI is not going to run out of money anytime soon. On the other side, we have quite a bit of choices to make, and we decide to start off with a staple of Corporation economy hedge fund and install the Charlotte into the remote server, hoping that the new asset is going to keep producing both cards and money for us for the next couple of turns. On the other side, we see that Bunker immediately targets the remote server. Probably that means that we have one of our barrier breakers in hand and we're interested in contesting that server. Otherwise, the double ice would stop the Bunker from working as intended, let's say. So let's see which one. Or maybe a trick of sorts, a boomerang to boomerang the border control, while the first ice would be broken with Bunker. But that depends entirely on the influence spent in SS deck. We'll start by drawing 3 cards, maybe searching for more options, maybe searching for the icebreaker while the Bunker target was a tentative one, assuming that we'll draw the solution to the second ice. And if I can see correctly, I see at least Lamb in hand for Oko, which will be quite expensive right now, but between a fermenter and the credits already in their pool, they would be able to contest the server. We start off with Hedge Fund, which effectively produces as much money as fermenter at this point. And we see as well a Behemoth in their hand, so we will be able to contest the remote on the last click. A core damage from the Drunken Cat coming down triggers Essa and gets rid of a running code, but more importantly sabotages 2 from the Corporation, and we see 1 card going down from HQ and 1 card going down from the top of R&D, which, as always, quite a big threat to Corporation's plans, both getting rid of cards from their hand and potentially milling the agendas from the top of their deck. Raindrops Cat Stone comes down and contests the remote server, which we can see now is the double border control, which proves regretfully not that big of a problem for a Drunken Cat to go through for as little as 2 credits, or 1 credit and 2 cards in hand, depending on how keen on getting cards from Raindrops Cat Stone our runner player is. 5 cards in hand, and it seems like we're breaking both border controls, meaning that our raindrops will not draw us cards, but will still be a marginal econ event, gaining us 3 effects between a run and 2 credits. Which is an interesting decision, but seeing as there was a breaker in hand, we might not want to use it. There might be more other important pieces that we would prefer to keep in our hand. And we can see that on the other side is only Charlotte, no agendas to be stolen this time, but disrupting one of the best engines that BtL could put into the game is certainly something that runners should be happy with either way. 5 cards in hand means that we still cannot kill the runner even if public trail were to put a tag on them, and we certainly could with 4 credits in the pool right now. So we decide to simply use our turn by installing and advancing twice the CityWorks project. The card that is actually amazing with our game plan of trying to flatline the runner with public trail end of the line combo, since as much as touching it will cost us 4 mid damage on the side of the runner, and between lack of funds, cards in hand being a limit, and 2 border controls, it should be fairly safe in our server. As safe as it pretty much is. Required bunker being targeted at a different server than remote, but it's also only 2 border controls. The Behemoth can always cut right through them. There seems to be some misunderstanding between players that is being cleaned up, but that shouldn't take too much of a time, as we can immediately see that. Well, we'll think for a second. So right now the game should be slightly corporation favored, at least as much as I can take from the current board state. The CityWorks project should be a fairly easy score, with runner being constantly threatened by public trail end of the line. That we are certainly aware of public trail. I don't know if we are aware of end of the line being drawn at any point, but I think on the turn with divide and conquer, Oko saw the end of the line from the top of Dagguh's deck, so they should be aware of the potential of unconditional 4 damage from the corporation side, which means that ending the turn with at least that many cards in hand will be crucial to surviving the corporation counterattack. We started our turn with a tempo labor rights, drawing a card and shuffling a couple of tempo positive cards, trying to keep up the pressure on the runner. We didn't have any plans seemingly to drown them in Chestushkas, and if I can see, the deck is an Ashen Epilogue, so that shouldn't be a problem when it comes to the recursion in the future. Here we are playing one of the other staples of Anarch Economy in the current standard format, Moshing, that is even more brutal, with Steelskin Scarring getting discarded, drawing us 2 more cards than it usually would. We're getting back immediately to 6 cards instead of just getting 3 cards and 3 credits with that card. And we also got rid of Lamb, which is quite an interesting choice, unless I can see that there is a second one in hand, which would make a lot of sense. Yeah, both Lamb as well as Ashen Epilogue are present in hand, so we shouldn't have a problem with losing our breakers. Next down in line comes a Ghost Tongue, triggering Essa again, which seems to be triggering often, but maybe not often enough. I don't think there was a trigger on each of the runners' turn this game. And we're rereading or re-asking about CityWorks project. Ghost Tongue is going to lower the cost of each of our events for the rest of the game, proving to be a juiced up version of prepaid voice pad of old, immediately starting to pay off its price with lowering the cost of that dirty laundry. And here we can see one end of the line, and importantly, two Alicias as Angeliques, if I'm not mistaken, showing that the corporation could deal more damage than just the public trail end of the line combo if they were required to, meaning that the runner may be in danger with as many as 4 cards in hand. So usually I would expect the corporation to score the CityWorks project here, but it seems that Dagguh has a different plan in mind, starting the turn off with a Spin Doctor, probably meaning to recurse some of the trashed kill combo parts and advancing the CityWorks project only once, while any other agenda it would look a little bit goofy. CityWorks project will deal 1 more damage to the runner were they to access it, while it has more and more advancement counters on them. So the runner turn starts with contesting the Spin Doctor again. Again, we don't want to sabotage more, we don't want to give more value to the Spin Doctor while we can. And as we have said, we are trying to record our kill combo parts, which is an interesting choice because I'm not certain if that deck can fire off more than one end of the line in a turn, at least with the single tag coming from the public trail, and I believe that there is already one copy of end of the line in Dagguh's hand, which seems like an interesting choice. I wonder if the plan to fire the end of the line for value at some point, simply stripping 4 cards from the runner's hand. Immediately we follow up with a Lamb, presenting a very formidable breaker seat. While not the most efficient, the ability to break any barrier with 5 or less strength for 1 credit and any other ice with 5 or less strength for 3 credits is an amazing option right after we are playing an Ashen Epilogue and starting the entire game over again, less the 5 cards that were removed from the game with that card. And immediately we can see the reason to record our deck. The Chestushka is back in hand, and effectively spamming this card can be a game plan in of itself for a lot of SS players. And we'll see what our runner decides to do with the last click. We decide to run with Raindrop Gladstone, I'm assuming on HQ. With some uncertainty being shown here where the bunker was declared at the start of the turn. I believe it might have been simply not called, and so we are using Lamb and Begemot together to break the singular subroutine on Afshar. And we're seeing the third border control and losing 2 credits from the Afshar second subroutine in the meantime. But being on only 1 credit, and getting back 3 credits from the Raindrops Gladstone, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. We also got to draw a card in the meantime. Now the question is, what is the plan for our corporation? We didn't score the CityWorks project last turn, but this turn it becomes more and more dangerous to not score it, especially with that Fermenter on 4 counters now and 5 counters in the turn after. But we decide to install 2 additional pieces of ice, defending from the potential future Chestushkas and defending the remote, because trying to run through that face down piece of ice with Bankar and stealing a 5 damage, CityWorks project might be just a little too big. And so we aim our Bankar at the HQ, but start the turn with boosted up moshing, discarding 2 strike funds and getting a total of 7 credits from a single card as well as 3 cards. While the card moshing on itself is not the most efficient piece of cardboard we can put in our deck, the combination with strike hand, skin scarring and really enabling Essa as well as other Anarchs to play free-offs of cards that are unique or only usable in single copies like Bankar, Marrow or Ghost Song is amazing for the redundancy of those decks, making sure they can always see them early in the game but get to discard the unnecessary later copies. And so we drew again and we're running with Chastushka. Maybe we're looking for more options, maybe simply making sure that our Bankar would not flatline us. We break border control for 1 and we are approaching Afshar, probably breaking it for effectively what is 5 credits, between 3 credits to break the end run and 2 credits being lost to the Afshar itself. That is a tall task for our runner player, but they get the border control off the board, which is twice important. Once, it cannot stop any future runs, but more importantly now Bankar can be used on the Afshar, making it 2 cards from hand instead of 5 credits, which is a trade that every Anarch will certainly be glad to take. And the moshing discards 3 cards that we already have installed on the board, their second copies or first copies in the case of, I believe, Bankar, which already was sent into the runner's heap with the previous moshing. Corporation decides to purge the virus counters with the runner on 5 credits. That is a choice we can certainly see where it is coming from, but the tempo that the runner has currently on the corporation seems like a reason they are in a driving position. Though corporation is on effectively 5 points, the CityWorks project is as unstable as they come at this point, and so getting to simply score it and move to 5 points shouldn't be too much of a problem, but we will see if that is really the case. After the runner's turn we are installing in ice in front of HQ, making that Afshar again a tall proposition to go through, and we are finally scoring the CityWorks project, making sure that the card is not exposed in case an odd agenda is being stalled from R&D or sabotaged into archives and stolen, and then the 5 damage from the CityWorks project, as much as it would be if it would be the price to end the game, it would always be happily paid by ESA, especially because the threat of public trail end of the line follow-up would be absent. Bankar aims its ability HQ, which either is just a placeholder place in while remote is empty, or we are probably planning to run another Chastushka into the head of corporation, and that seems to be the case. And now the question is, how much is our runner going to pay for the pleasure of stripping another 4 cards from corporation? Well, then you're going to pay 3 cards from hand, with Hammer being dressed down, and Standout Eyes that still is not seeing as much play as it probably should, but that's mostly probably due to Weyland being not in a as good of a spot as it was before, but the card still is full of quite mean subroutines. But right now all those subroutines are deal 1 net damage, which is a very, very good trade for our runner player. Again, we'll pay 4 credits this time out of the 5 we would lose all in all to get through the offshore, but the price of 4 cards at the top of R&D from Corporation is one that is worth paying. Now the question is, are we going to immediately check up on the archives? Only 2 Spin Doctors were seen so far, so leaving any cards face down in archives might be too big of a risk. But at the same time, our runner is on 0 credits and 3 cards in hand, which means that the Public Trail end of the line combo is live and active, at least before this last click. And we'll play our Steelskin Scaring, getting back to 5 cards in hand. That should mean that we are safe no matter what the combination of cards in the Dagguh's hand right now is. And we can see the Public Trail and I believe end of the line, the second from the left, in his hand, which means that we could have died on this turn were we to run and check the archives. Our turn is going to be install and advance the CityWorks project before clicking for a credit. On the other side, we start the turn with popping our Fermenter for 6 credits and placing Bankar on the remote server, clearly keen to check. And here is the last Spin Doctor, and we can see that there is an agenda in going to this core area of Oko, which means that the CityWorks project installed last turn face up on the table might spell the end of the game if that front ice is not good enough to keep up with the Bankar and Behemoth. Bankar, Behemoth and Lamb combination. 2 border controls mean that SI needs to start running right now if they want to see the chance of stealing the CityWorks project. And so that's what we are going to do. Start with a raindrop Scatstone with 4 cards in hand, meaning that if we just simply get through the 2 pieces of ice, it will be good enough to steal the CityWorks project. And we are not rezzing the ice, which have seemed to be hammer from what I could glean from that short flash. And so we are in a very bad spot as a corporation, unable to rest the outmost ice, the border controls being broken for 1 credit a pop, only their ability keeping us in the game, and running hot probably spells the end of that game. Losing a card from the hand in exchange for 2 more cards, for another card, and 2 more clicks means that we will have more than enough time to go and steal that CityWorks project this turn. But let's see if maybe something happens that stops the runner from taking that choice. That face down ice still might be somewhat scary, but at worst it would be something like a Hortum and not being rest at the start. We can see that it is not a threat to the runner. Extension of hands signals the end of the first game, and yes, we can see that it was in fact a hammer. Regretfully, as good as the card is, the price of 6 credits is the downside that people are trying to arguing against the inclusion of it. With the first game out of the way, we are moving into the second game of the match. This time, Kit in the hands of Dagguh running against Personal Evolution in the hands of Oko, and we can see that the game starts. The hands were, I believe it was both keep in this one, and we can immediately see Fuji in the hand of Oko, but not the greatest hand, so it probably was a mulligan. Drawing in the first click of the first turn is rarely a thing you want to see out of the corporation. As a corporation player, as a runner player, we are very happy with the current situation. And the runner hand is quite a good one. Anikam and Dirty Laundry to get back our credits and a card immediately are a very good combination. Anikam being a soft safety valve against P's damage dealing game plan is also quite a boon to the runner player, and immediately we can still see the steal of an aforementioned Fuji. Agenda. Happily the runner was left with 3 cards in hand, so we are not going to die on the first turn of the game, but their hand is going to become empty, and if corporation were to have cards like Blood in the Water and the runner decided to not draw cards for the rest of the turn, it might prove to be a little bit of a scare, but we can see that Dagguh is choosing to draw 2 cards on his last 2 clicks, getting back into a not entirely safe but a better spot than being on 1 card against a personal evolution deck. And if I were to be honest, that's probably the best start as a runner we could have. Seeing Fuji early in the game and having a somewhat full hand immediately after is very important, or makes matchup much easier. Here the Oko turn starts with a Mindscaping, which produces only 2 credits. I believe there was some miscommunication between the players, but at least we are going to keep our R&D safe. And immediately after we are going to play a Mitosis, which is probably one of the best, if not the best cards that came out in the recent sets to help bolster the personal evolution as an archetype, or an archetype of advanceable traps at all. Being an amazing click compression, making what is amounts to 6 actions total, and being a soft economy card, getting more advancements for less credits on them. It is quite a card in the decks. On the other side, we can see another amazing card for the runner in the form of DJ Fenris, which will host a Stiff Cambridge on top of itself, making sure that the runner's hands remains full, immediately offering a choice between Dirty Laundry and a Diesel to the corporation, making sure that the runner rarely runs out of economy, and making sure that they draw more and more cards with each passing turn. We have seen the Neurospike come out from the hand of Oko, or rather be accessed by Kit, and that probably spells some potential trouble to the runner that shouts I can die from as many as 5 cards in hand, between the 3 damage from the Neurospike itself, 2 damage from the Fuji, and 1 damage from P's ability. But that is quite far from now, and Anikami is probably going to save us in such a case. Sting being stolen means that we are losing 2 cards out of the runner's hand, one of them being Orca, which, while being quite amazing at breaking various sentries that we could present us with, like Saisentan or Anansi, the card cost hefty 10 credits, and being able to install it with something like Test Run, put it back on the top of the deck and then spark into it will probably be a much better outcome for us. Corporation turn is draw a card and install a card. There was a couple of problems during those games with turns that were longer than they probably well, maybe not longer than they should be, but there were some miscommunications between both players, and the turns ended up being a little weird, either not all clicks being taken or clicks being taken back and used for something else, and this is one of the reasons for a couple of cuts. We just saved ourselves a couple of minutes of footage of explaining what amounts to a small mistake from one of the players, or either of the players. So we have an NGO fire before the access, which probably betrays a snare or free in the deck of personal evolution. We wanted to get above the free credits that were available to us the moment the cards were accessed, which, if snare is a surprise or not in P, is a question that I will leave to you to answer. Shuriken draws us into a Spark of Inspiration, the core of the most modern kit decks, which with Orca in our heap is always going to find us a lobby summon, but we'll see if that's something that is currently interesting to the runner, if this is a card we want to slam and get our breaker into play. No, it seems that Cataloger is the first choice, which is an interesting one with 2 clicks left and no breaker in the light of R&D being iced currently, because it means that it won't be exactly used on this turn. And we follow up with drawing 3 cards with the Ternuka and playing daily casts, getting ready for the latter part of the game. The game should take at least 4 more turns to finish, so there shouldn't be too much of a problem with this daily cast finding its payout over the next couple of turns. On the other side, we have a turn that started with install an advancement and another install, the corporation threatening more traps, more cards that can become the problem to an unbeknownst runner. On the other side, we finally see the Spark of Inspiration, not maybe as early as the kid player would like to see, but still quick enough in light of the fact that P is not exactly playing the most ice in the game. The early accesses on R&D and HQ proving enough before the ice came down, and now with the both Cataloger and Lobby Summon in play, we can start hammering the R&D, hoping that we'll see Hypoint Adjuntas from the top of the deck and seeing the game coming to a close. Cataloger also an amazing card against P in general, making sure that we are not going to run into an odd snare from the top of the deck, being overall a save all as well as pseudo multi-access. Here we can see the red explanation mark again on the Oculus side. I believe that Anemone was rest for only 2 credits, but we could still afford it, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Even a snare, if it was touched, would still be payable with the 4 credits that would be left, so we should be a-okay with that small mistake. But anemone and its trigger 8, pinhole threading and another card from Dagguh's hand, and the subroutine was broken with the kid's ability painting the anemone into Code Geass colors, but seeing the Fuji Asset Retrieval on the top of the deck, we are probably going to see the end of the game with the cataloger activation coming down as soon as this diesel finishes resolving, and it seems that they are not certain on the amount of clicks that were spent during the turn, but the cataloger is being activated and the final agenda is being stolen, Dagguh hitting 7 agenda points and showing that there was in fact 7 agenda points on the top of Oko decks as well, so quite a bit of cards that were shown on, and a clearinghouse, a sneaky trap for the runner, so the game certainly wasn't going to be long for this world, either of the sides being able to win as soon as turn or 2 turns from now. Thank you for watching the first round of Polish Nationals, and I hope to see you during the next ones. See ya!